Animal Man number 15, written by Jeff Lemire, art by Steve Pugh and Timothy Green II. So, last issue left off with Animal Man and his little roving gang being attacked by Grodd and a bunch of other gorillas, including the Brain and Monsieur Mala. And it's basically everyone's knocked out because of the mental powers except for Steel. And he's like, alright, gorillas, I'm going to start blasting you. And then Monsieur Mala starts blasting Steel. And he's like, ow, alright, get off me. And so they come up to Animal Man. They're like, wait a minute, this guy kind of smells like a gorilla. And Animal Man's like, because I'm using gorilla powers. And he's like, what? You saying something to Grodd? And he's like, yeah, because I'm using gorilla powers. Punches him in the face. And then everyone else manages to shake off the mental attack from Grodd. And they're like, all right, let's get to it. And Monsieur Mel is about to start shooting them all. And all of a sudden, a giant sword comes out of nowhere and stabs the Brain in the brain. And it turns out that it's Frankenstein and his army of patchwork people. Frankenstein's got his own tie-in to this. It is not complete yet, but I guess this is where we're getting to. So, Frankenstein rides in. He basically helps take out all the gorillas. He blows Monsieur Mala's head off. And Animal Man punches out Grodd. And once all the gorillas are taken care of, they're like, cool, great, good job, everybody. Frankenstein's here to help. And at that point, they're like, hey, Frankenstein, if you're looking for vengeance, we could really use some help. We're going after the Arcane's castle. And he's like, that is suicide. Even for us dead army people, like, that ain't gonna work. I've sent some scouts out there, and they always come back scared and talk about some giant guardians. And it's like, well, we got to do something soon, Animal Man complains. And he's like, look, soon everyone's going to be dead. And he's like, I mean, I've mastered my creator's ability to create life. I can bring back everybody as undead patchwork people, and then the rot can't affect them. And they're like, okay, but let's try a different option, because that doesn't seem like a good end game there. And he kind of shrugs it off, and he's like, all right, well, here's the thing. I've heard rumors that there is a prison deep below Metropolis for somebody that's so powerful that they could take on Arcane. Like, they're so powerful that Arcane couldn't convert them or destroy them. And of course, Metropolis, everyone's like, you think it's Superman? And they explain, like, well, Superman fought alongside Steel for like months to hold off the rot, and then one day he just disappeared. We never found a body. We didn't see him die. It's possible it's him. So, like, okay, well, regardless, if it's somebody who can help us in the fight, we got to go to Metropolis. So Frankenstein's army and our little roving gang are making their way to Metropolis. Meanwhile, we cut to the plot with Maxine running into William Arcane, and she's like, oh, William Arcane, that name sounds familiar. And she's like, yeah, I think you met my sister. It's like, yeah, I know, your sister's cool. Are you also cool? And Sox is like, for the love of God, he is so not cool, Maxine. This is a trap, like, you cannot believe. And he's like, no, I'm also a good Arcane. Like, my powers allow me to remove the rot from people. Like, I just removed the rot from these two old ladies and a boy. And it's like, oh, that sounds like my mom, my grandma, and my brother. And he's like, oh yeah, they did kind of look like you. Come on, I have them in this barn way down the road. And Sox is again like, for the love of God, Maxine, do not do this. And she's like, shush, that's my family you're talking about. We're going. So they make their way down to this farm down the road. And he's like, I promise they're safe. And he opens up the door, and inside are the two hunters who are still, quote-unquote, alive, and the family who is still rotified. So he lied. He's not good. So then we cut over to the RotWorld again, and the caravan is making their way down there. And they're like, okay, well, the Patchwork Army doesn't need to sleep. Neither does Steel. But the rest of them do. So they're all going to fall asleep inside of a caravan and try to get some rest. And just a point of note is that Beast Boy has started wearing Monsieur Mala's beret and like ammo clip, mag, whatever you want to call it. So anyway, they all start falling asleep, and Buddy has a dream. He's back at home, and he's like, oh, I had a horrible dream. Maxine's waking him up saying like, oh, you said you were going to make us pancakes. And they go downstairs, and Ellen is down there making some coffee, and he's like, "Hey, where's Cliff?" And all of a sudden, Ellen gets quiet, and Maxine's like, "Well, he's in the backyard, of course." So Buddy goes down to the backyard, and his eyes start bleeding profusely. And as he makes his way over to the corner of the yard, he sees Cliff lying in an open grave, just like, "Hey, Dad." And he's wearing like an Animal Man costume. He's like, "Hey, Dad, I think I kind of ruined your costume," as we see his entire chest and guts are just pouring out. And he's like, "It's okay, though. I got to be a hero, just like I always wanted." And so then he shoots back awake. And they're like, "Hey, cool, we made it to Metropolis." But as they look out over Metropolis, it is covered in plant life. And they're like, "That's weird. Yeah, plants, I thought this was rot infested. I thought there was no more green." And they're like, "Okay, well, not all of the green is good. Like, it is a spectrum. Some things are closer to the rot. So, yeah, it might be an issue." So at that point, the roving gang make their way down. The Patchwork Army is just keeping an eye on things from above. And they use Beast Boy's... he turns into a bloodhound and he starts sniffing out. And they find their way down into the prison, like, immediately. And they're like, "This seems really easy. This shouldn't be this easy." But there literally is no sign of the rot anywhere, so screw it. And they slash their way into the prison. And inside is Green Lantern. But not like anybody we know. It's not Hal or Guy or John or Kyle. It is a plant-based Green Lantern who has spread his vines across Metropolis. I'm sure he has a name, but they don't give it. So, yeah. Didn't see that coming. Didn't see it being Green Lantern. I guess it kind of makes sense. I mean, I know that some versions of the Green are linked with Green Lantern, but I don't think main continuity has that yet. But maybe we'll get something because this guy's plant-based. Who knows? Regardless, I think it was a solid enough issue. I think the Maxine plot's a little bit meh. Just in, like... I get that we're getting to the point where she is going to, like, immediately fall because it has to happen for this timeline to happen, but that's, at a certain point, she's too trusting, you know? Like, I know she's, like, 4, but still, she should know a little bit better than to talk to strangers. So, overall, though, it is a good issue. I'm going to say 7. I think it's a solid issue. It is just kind of like a middle bit, though, where we found a new side plot that we're going to take and we're going to get a new party member along with it. So a little bit of a divergence, but it's interesting enough, and we get to see Frankenstein swing back into the main parts of the story. So yeah, can't really complain. 7 for this.